First, I'd just like to say that pigeons are extremely gluttonous. I've been putting seeds on my balcony so that my cat can watch the birds, and finally the pigeons have discovered that I've been doing this, and they're crazy. What would take maybe a week for all the smaller birds to eat, these fucking pigeons can eat it within an hour. It's actually kind of insane. But what I actually wanted to talk about was the next chapter in the 6 pillars of self esteem. This is the first pillar, and it is the practice of living consciously. It is the idea that we have to live mindfully. And this is like one of those, I don't love the way self-help books are written. There's something hard about reading them. I don't know exactly like what it is, but I guess they're taking sort of vague ideas and truths about the universe and life and then trying to like compact it into digestible terms and like chapters of a book. So when it's not like you do X to get Y and then become Z, sometimes it's hard to read these chapters and like really retain everything that the author wants you to retain. So my hope in trying to like go over the chapter afterward, after I read it, is to take what I've read, the parts that like actually like stuck in my head, and then verbalize it so that I actually take something. So he said a lot in this chapter about living consciously. It's essentially being mindful of what you're doing and the choices that you're making. And even, the choice to not do something is a choice. I saw a lot about avoidance, like when you're nervous about your bank account and you don't want to look, and then you just kind of hope that everything is fine, but it's not. And I've always known that the truth at the end of the day is you can't manage what you don't know. You have to look in order to make moves that can actually like solve your problem. So you kind of have to extrapolate that to your entire life. You can't pretend that there's no problem when there's a problem. You have to be like conscious of the fact that something is wrong or something is giving you anxiety or whatever in order to make choices after that. So seek to be aware of everything that bears on our actions to the best of our ability and behave in accordance with that which we see and know. So to be aware of everything that bears on our actions. So if I want to be living in a clean house, then me choosing not to wash the dishes contributes to the dirty house. And not having like a cleaning routine that like deals with the dishes in like bite-sized chunks just leads to me having to do like massive cleans later in the week, and it just makes life harder. And our actions to the best of our ability, because sometimes there's only so much you can do. I'm glad that he acknowledges that. And behave in accordance to accordance with that which we see and know. So act based in truth, not just feelings and hopes. And that kind of goes into the choice article and the non-negotiable hobbies. Like, feelings do not equal the truth, and you should be concerned with distinguishing between facts, emotions, and interpretations. Like the choice article that I've mentioned before talks about how if you wait for your feelings to be right, you're just always going to be waiting. It's an excuse. You kind of have to operate no matter how you're feeling, because your brain tends to go towards the negative. So I think what Nathaniel Branden is saying is, if I want to be fit, then I gotta exercise. And it's a non-negotiable activity for me now. And you have to stand in your choices. Like, you can't do things, like, you can't be ambivalent. You have to make a choice and stand in it, but also be willing to be wrong and to find out alternatives and change your mind and change. That's also about being conscious, because when you're conscious, you're seeking the truth, not trying to be like right all the time. Fear and pain should be signals to open our eyes wider, not close them. So, I mean, I see in my life where when I've been anxious or scared, my tendency is to avoid. And the part that like he doesn't explain as much, and the part that I've always had trouble with in my own life, is, well, what if you feel like you're hitting a wall? Like, fear and pains should be signals to open our eyes wider. Okay, I want to, but sometimes the fear is so great that it feels impossible. And what do you do then, When you don't open your fears wider, or you don't live consciously, you're essentially lowering your self-esteem. Your self-esteem takes a hit each time. I can see how that's true. But again, like, what if you just don't feel strong enough to open your eyes wider? Or your self-esteem is so low, you don't know how to do that. I find that, maybe it'll be answered later in the book, but I've always been annoyed by things like that. Do our actions match our goals? So to live consciously is to take an inventory of yourself and see if what you say and what you do align. And I think that's something you have to do all the time. I mean, I just spoke about my friend and how partially, like, at the end of the day, her life has nothing to do with me. Like, she's free to do what she wants. But it's that idea of, she claims to be spiritual, but then she doesn't do the things that spirituality is supposed to do for humanity, Like, when you meditate, you're supposed to be conscious, but she allows herself to be kind of in the dark and pretend that things aren't happening and let shit die, Like, something is making her anxious in her friendship, and instead of choosing to, like, do something about it, she chose to look away. And I see this in my life too. Like, I've done the bank account thing 100 times. I've said I wanted to be a certain kind of person, but I was doing things that were not related at all. But then that's where my whole thing of, like, I don't know, sometimes it feels impossible comes in. But I see what they mean. Like, even with the yoga teacher training, I want to be a good teacher, but I'm not practicing. I feel like I can't, I want to, but there's definitely more that I could be doing. And at the very least, like, I need to be fighting it more and trying more. And maybe, like, eventually I'll find a way that's, like, less just grit your teeth and get through it. But for now, like, me wanting to be a yoga teacher and not practicing, it does not make much sense. So, interesting chapter. I do feel like talking about it helped a bit, because there's a lot of, I don't know, it's a lot of, like, it's how I felt reading The Artist Way. Like, at the core of it, there's, like, definitely a point, but sometimes it's so, like, it's like you're in a cloud. Like, the cloud is something I can see when I look up at the sky, but the cloud is actually just water vapor. And if I was up in the sky and I try to grab a cloud, it wouldn't work. I don't know if that, like, makes any sense, but it's the way I feel about these sorts of books. But I really want to take this one in. Someone I really respect recommended it to me. So that's today's chapter.